Welcome to Nerds, Geeks, in the Kitchen Sink. It's the podcast that's like hanging out at the video store, or maybe this week, hanging out at the movie theater?
I love how you open every time like it's a question.
Yeah, it is a question that the listener has to answer.
Yeah.
Is it just anticipation for when Chris will interject?
You know.
100%. He did this
And
to
then,
himself, really.
And then when I don't, he's like,
Waiting.
is it going to happen? Is it? Wait.
I'm like an abused animal. All right.
Poor guy.
Yeah. I'm a cowardly
Hey,
little.
as long as you're not a baby seal.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Like you're going to club me?
Clubbing?
Club you like a baby seal? Yeah. I mean,
was clubbing involved in this conversation before?
Well, but it might be.
We could drown you like an adolescent worm.
Well,
there
yeah,
you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Well, I mean, we were talking about Sajay in Washington Park, so I mean.
Hi, my name's DK, and I'm one of your hosts of this show. Over there is Chris. He's your other host.
Improve if you feel like it.
Yes, thank you. And today we have the loveliest of guests. We have Bones. Hello from the 5-Day Rentals podcast, a podcast I love.
Thank you.
And everyone else should.
Great to be here.
Yep. I was recently there with them for the 5-Day Rentals for Phantasm 5.
And hold on, how many does that make that you've been on?
Where are you going with this?
Quite a bit.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
You were invited the very first time, to be clear.
Well, that was the con, and I was gone.
Yeah.
So, and that was the draft.
So they got your message. They understood that you did not want to be there.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I have thought about seeing if you guys want to come on and do The Crow before.
You know that's a yes.
The remake. and or maybe
for the remake.
For the remake. Maybe we do a quick 2-day rental and cover the remake.
Okay.
Well, we can talk about that further, but yes. I mean, my answer is yes.
I may have just hinted at something that might happen. So,
okay,
eagle-eared listeners.
Well, we're so glad you could be here. You have a bit of a history with Dune that I think is pretty interesting. Do you want to tell people about your Dune thing before we really get there? I just want to set this up for the Dune heads that are tuning in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not an expert by any means. I wouldn't even say like intermediate level, but my mother, who I get a lot of my science fiction and action taste from, is a Dune fanatic. Has read the entire series, is probably one of those that's so hardcore that could tell you like this prequel is the best, or Messiah or Children is probably the best, and had kind of like a love-hate relationship with the Lynch Dune, but any version available we always had, and it was always on when I grew up.
Yep.
She did not necessarily force me, but encourage me to read the first novel when I was younger, but not much of it stuck. And then when the sci-fi series came out, I remember her being so excited because
that was, for me, that was huge.
You know, the ability to let this stuff breathe and actually touch on a little, you know, those little details that you unfortunately have to just slice when you adapt. Overall, I don't know if I haven't been able to get her read on DV's version. Unfortunately, she just had a knee replacement, so she's not able to sit in a movie theater for a long time. So I think she was kind of reserving her thoughts on the first one until they saw what they did in this one. So
see that.
Along with like James Bond and Star Trek, Dune was just always something that I grew up around.
What a beautiful home life. I love that. Oh,
yeah,
man.
Yeah, I'm a little older than you guys, so like, you know, the Lynch Dune was anything and everything until the point of the series.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
you didn't play any of the games. I know there were some games at that point, but they weren't
super
popular.
It really wasn't that, all the systems, because I wasn't a big PC gamer.
But there's a great console game called Dune: The Battle for Arrakis, Chris.
I know.
It's for Sega Genesis.
I've got to do an emulator and get it.
You have the equipment. You
I
have
know
the
I do. I
device.
know. I know.
I set you up to
But
succeed.
no, I've read a lot of the books. I haven't read all of them, especially any of the new like novella stuff that they've been coming out with. But yeah, my mom was a huge James Bond fan, so I've seen umpteen million James Bonds in the theater before.
Sure.
You know, so
Beautiful.
I can you know see what exactly Bones was talking about right there with getting that love of that kind of stuff. And I'm the kid that hid under the seat in '77 so I could see Star Wars again and not
Very
pay.
good. Very good. You were concerned about the costs at that
Yes,
age.
right. No, no.
All right. Well, that's just our little Dune
Yeah,
teaser
yeah.
here. We'll get into Dune as the meat of the episode, but first, there's a couple other things we want to talk about. I just want to check in with Chris. Chris, anything you've been playing, doing, watching?
Not really. I haven't had much time to play, but I've been batching it this weekend because the rest of the fam is off traveling for competitions. But I rewatched Ghost Watch.
Oh, it's on Shutter now. Yeah,
Yes, it is on Shudder. I saw it the other night and I rewatched it. I mean, for something like that, that's so good.
it's incredible. I think it's
It's just
incredible.
yeah, and then for it to have the kind of impact, I guess you could say,
Yep.
because it's almost, I would say, like, is the grandfather of the paranormal reality shows
Hmm.
to a degree.
Uh,
If you think about it,
I would
you've
say it's
got
more
those
like a
onset.
Paranormal Activity or something like that. Not
Well,
not
but
so
I
much a
mean,
reality show.
but the way they had it set up with like doing the investigation on film,
Hmm.
and the people in the house and studying it outside of the house, watching the people inside, and that whole kind of concept, I think, really did kind of, if you think about it, came from that.
I remember it being on Unsolved Mysteries, Chris. They had Hans Holzer on there, man. He knew what he was doing. He was finding ghosts everywhere.
Yeah,
Anyway, you make a good point, Chris.
yeah.
So I will move on now and say that I also like Ghostwatch. Bones, have you seen Ghostwatch?
I have not. I just canceled my Shutter
You asshole.
subscription. Finally, it was like if I don't watch a movie over like 2 months on there, I'm calling it.
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody else has this issue. Shutter has that Shutter Live, so as soon as you open the app,
Yeah.
it's got like 3 or 4 movies already going.
Yeah.
That those audio tracks will continue into me selecting a movie and playing. I always
Whoa.
end up having to back out several
Hmm.
times and restarting the app.
That sucks. That's never happened to me.
Yeah.
So when I started to watch Castle Freak this week, I was getting the audio of some original Shutter movie.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
done.
That's
Yeah, because
weird.
I watch mine on the PlayStation and it doesn't do that. So
Okay. Maybe it's a Apple TV thing.
Are
I don't
you
It can be.
signed up to Shutter through Amazon,
know.
Chris?
Oh.
Yes, I am.
Chris did. Okay. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's the only way you could watch it on the PlayStation. I was about
Right.
to get scared that I missed the release of a Shutter app
No,
on PlayStation, which would be the best day
No,
of my
I just
life.
do it through Amazon. Yeah.
I will say
Okay.
their pricing seems fair. Was it like $7 or $8? If that.
It's awesome. Yeah.
So-
Six.
Yeah, $6.99, I think. I could never leave Joe Bob, at least while Joe Bob is going. I will never stop my Shutter. I gotta have Joe Bob. He's back
Well,
soon too, right? He's back.
yeah,
I mean,
I
he just
saw
did
it.
Walking Dead.
Right. I just saw like a preview thing is on Shutter, like a coming soon date. I
Looks like
forgot
there's
what
some
it
cool
was,
stuff
but
coming too. But
yeah.
speaking of Shutter, we can go ahead and get right into this if you want.
Yes.
I have the Shutter YouTube page pulled up,
Okay.
and there they have the trailer for Late Night with the Devil, which is a trailer
Yes.
that I think we should probably take a look at.
Yeah.
So,
Because it's slightly Dune related. David Dismalchin is the star of it, and who was in the first Debbie Dune. So
Yep.
it all relates.
let me share my screen.
Okay.
Share sound. There it is. All right, y'all see that?
Yep.
I don't know. Well, the trailer's not red band, so I can watch this, but the
Okay,
movie.
yeah.
ER.
It's a Green Band, all right? It's Green Band.
Green Man.
There we go.
We are back in 5, 4.
Now, here's Mr. Midnight, Jack Darrow. Oh, good.
I love the name Mr. Midnight, first and
Yeah.
foremost. Perfect for this man.
And the 70s, you know, perfect. The colors,
This TV studio.
Yeah, the TV studio.
Yeah, I agree. So right off the bat, production design is like nailing it.
Yeah.
Evening, night owls, and thank you for allowing me into your living rooms once again.
The hair is on point.
Night owls, we've got
Yes.
a heck of a show in store for you tonight, and I'm very excited for you to see it all unfold before your very eyes. I really hope you love it. Gosh, I hope you love it. Please love it. Love it.
Please love it.
I'm trying to host nationally syndicated talk.
So they're trying to present this as though this really happened
Right.
in some way,
Almost a mockumentary kind of.
almost like Ghost Watch
Yes.
in some ways.
His announcer guy with the devil horns is like, how do you cast Paul F. Tompkins without casting Paul F. Tompkins?
I see it. I definitely
Yeah.
see it.
I'm trying to help you keep it on the air.
We all know how important it is to keep our sponsors and affiliates happy, but in my humble opinion, there is only one person who really matters in this whole darn crazy business.
Was that a? This might just be nothing.
The
This
devil.
looks well, yeah.
Yeah.
Was that the devil there? This looks a little like the Halloween 3 skeleton mask, I guess. I don't think it's exactly the same, but
Yeah.
my eyes want to see that.
And that is you, our viewer.
You're meddling with things you don't understand.
Whoa! Now, as you know, here on Night Owls, we think it's very important to keep.
You know who else he looks like, I think? The original, oh god, his name just left me. Mario. Roger Rabbit.
Bob Hoskins.
Bob Hoskins, thank you. Good God. He's a little bit
Yeah,
Bob
Yeah.
Hoskins.
a little bit. The bald head with the big mustache and the kind of squatty, short, chubby guy.
Keep an open mind. Please welcome Dr. June Ross Mitchell and Lily, the young subject of the book, Conversations with the Devil.
I really don't think it's a good idea, Jack. She's becoming more unpredictable.
That's a good thing. That's why we still do live TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for a live television.
I love
Okay.
this. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say just that little with her like shackled in the chair, and the little like. Does that not give anyone else the creeps?
I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a little nuance kind of thing that, knowing what this. I mean, just looking at the trailer and what it's about,
Sure.
and it's just kind of a little precursor of shit to go crazy.
What's standing out to me is the audio flip.
Yeah.
How you're getting the live television audio versus like the off-camera
in-person,
audio.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bones, that's literally what I was trying to say.
Okay.
The same point exactly. I do love that warm, compressed, like retro sounding the TV audio.
Right.
Ooh, it's perfect.
Television first, as we attempt to commune with the devil.
Stephen King likes it.
Lily, can you hear me?
Concerned Frankenstein.
Good to see you again, Jack.
Lily, return to me.
I love the face. The brief
Yeah.
face is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
And the fact that it's got that flash, the old camera, kind of 70s, where it doesn't quite keep up with the action kind of movement.
Sure.
Yeah.
Bones, you were saying something.
Oh, why is the devil always got to come through a teenage girl, man?
Every time.
What is it?
I'm definitely very tired of like possession movies in general, which is why I was so bummed about like, oh, Pope's Exorcist, another one of these, huh? I ended up really enjoying that movie,
Yeah.
so hopefully this can be the same.
Yeah.
This isn't about ratings anymore.
No one's going anywhere.
How could you let it happen, Jack? How could you let it happen?
Please be warned, anyone with young children in the room. What you're about to see
You okay, Jack?
is profoundly disturbing and shocking.
You get out there, Mr. Midnight. And you knock him dead.
Now, the mirror image was kind of it was pretty quick, but
That should be a poster.
yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's a great title.
It's a great title, and it's a great looking title.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, wow, what's that movie where that lady, I might be talking to myself here. The movie where the lady goes to try to find her father at this like beach town in California. It has a similar, oh my God, it's like 70s. I think it's maybe the inspiration for this. And I will never ever remember the name of the movie. Is it Messiah of Evil?
I can't remember.
I'm not familiar with that. Sorry.
I mean, it does give me kind of like Night of the Living Dead, that kind of font.
I might be thinking of the wrong movie.
Yeah.
That is the movie I'm thinking of, but I'm not seeing a font that reminds me of
might
that.
not be the
You know what else it reminds me of is that video game We Happy Few. That's like the same kind of logo, but I'm sure that's inspired by something else. Anyway,
Right.
I think there's more. Maybe let's see. Nope, only in theaters, baby.
Yep.
Wow. For a Shutter release. Interesting.
That is really cool. Yeah, that is. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that in the theater.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Absolutely, that's a treat.
Not too much longer, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. That's how long that lady is going to be on Mars for vacation.
The devil couldn't do the Tonight Show. Jimmy Fallon would just be laughing through it the whole time.
I mean, you have to do a Phil Donahue. There's just no.
That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah.
Or just put him on Family Feud or something.
No Maury Povich.
Mhm.
You know, who's the daddy?
Put him on all the TV shows. Just see how he does.
Rosemary. The devil is the father.
The crowd freaks out. He rushes at the
Yeah.
other guy. I don't know. No, that movie looks great though. For sure. That has a lot of me in there. I love the 70s look and the vibe of that. Yeah. Sign me up for sure.
He's got a solid career going. I think he had a pretty rough go with some addiction problems. So
Yeah.
on the other side of it seems.
That's awesome.
A fellow Illinoisan. He's
Yes.
from Chicago. So
That's right. I've done seen him on Svengoolie one time.
Yep. So David, if you ever listen, you're more than welcome on the show.
He's not gonna listen to this, Chris.
Hey, you never know. He is a big nerd and a geek. He has his own comic books he's doing.
I got a bunch of
So-
comic books that I own. They're right over there.
Well, that he wrote.
Well, okay. Technically, I did write one 10 years ago or so, and it's terrible, but it does exist. It's out there.
I am now up to like almost 30 pages of mine. So
Bones, how's your comic book coming along?
It's great, man. It's great. We're inking right now.
Inking.
Inking.
All right.
That's a term, right?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Lucky shot.
Uh,
Yeah, that is a term.
Just as a side note, I got the wonderful opportunity to check out some of the new Lad comic from Umar Ditta,
Oh yeah,
our old pal.
I saw that he's finishing it up.
Yes, it's pretty cool. So if you're a fan of the Lad, you're going to want to get involved in this Kickstarter whenever that
Yes.
happens. So shout out to Umar. I loved it.
Yep.
Anything else, Chris? Any other trailers or
I mean,
movies?
not really to me. Imaginary just came out this week, which is kind of like in the vein of Megan and that, where it's almost a PG-13 kind of horror.
I don't think I know what you're talking about.
Imaginary?
Did we talk about it? Have we talked about
No,
this?
we haven't talked about this.
Imaginary. What is it?
Yeah,
Imaginary.
go look up. It's not IF, Imaginary Friend, the one with Ryan Reynolds. This is a horror movie.
Horror mystery. Oh, I could go see it right now. 2
Yeah,
p.m.
it's here.
It's here.
It's here.
A woman returns to her childhood home to discover that her imaginary friend she left behind is very real and unhappy that she abandoned him. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
It's
Like
like a PG-13.
Yeah.
Scary drop dead Fred
Kind of. That's the way it's played off.
That's a pretty fun idea.
And the poster is like this teddy bear in a basement kind of look.
I'll take Zora to see that. PG
I said, from
13.
what I've heard, it's right around the level of like Megan. So
Okay. Well, she loved Megan.
yeah.
Megan was like, we were counting down the days till it came to Peacock so she could watch it again. All right. Imaginary.
Imaginary.
All right. Well, Bones, anything you've been reading, playing, doing beyond podcasts?
I got something that Chris might be interested in. So the last year, my wife and I, are you familiar with Stephen Fry?
Yes.
British comedian and writer.
Yep.
Are you familiar with his Greek mythology adaptations?
I've heard about him, but I haven't seen anything or read anything on him. I heard that he was doing something like that, but
so he put out 3 massive books. It's
okay.
Mythos, Heroes, and Troy.
Okay.
And
I'll have to look.
Last year on a road trip, my wife and I started Mythos, where he basically goes through, he kind of condenses and adapts the Greek mythologies and start from when their history starts through the course of, Titans and Zeus taking over, breaks over and explains which and why gods are, on Olympus.
Okay.
Carries through. First one is incredible. We have about an hour left on the audio book for Heroes.
Okay.
He starts off with Heracles, which was very confusing at first, that now that is the correct pronunciation. Goes through, classic stories that you've heard.
Right.
Oedipus or whatever does different voices for each thing.
Okay.
We'll break off and say, this classic writer or Homer says this, but I think that this makes more sense given the timeline. So it does seem like he's pretty fascinated with it.
Okay.
And we're ending on Theseus right now. And if you're just a fan of classic storytelling, it's awesome to see where a lot of these tropes probably derive from.
Right. Oh yeah, that's definitely something, because I'm a huge Greek mythology, always have been since a kid. So yeah, and it kind of reminds me, what you're talking about is kind of slightly what Neil Gaiman did
Norse mythology.
with Norse mythology.
Yeah, Audible keeps kicking that to me. Like, if you're a fan of this, maybe try it.
It's good.
So.
You'll dig it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. And Gaiman does the reading for
Dream scenario, dude.
Yeah.
Gaiman reading you the thing he wrote.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the
He
best.
pretty much has done all of his own audiobooks. I don't think there's the only one is oh god. And they do it as a play.
Never
Audio
where.
play. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you're listening to Fry, and because we usually do like a half hour every night when we go to bed, darken the room, we all put our eye masks on and everything, set the sleep timer, and then we're out. So you usually have to back up 10 minutes or so the next night. But you can tell when he ends one chapter and he picks up the next, that's probably Monday to Tuesday whenever he did record it, because his voice is now raw.
From the previous day.
Yeah, so it takes him a little bit. I always enjoy that. I love people's morning voices, and Stephen Fry's voice just in general is incredible.
Right.
He's great.
I would recommend that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely look into those.
That's probably for me too. I'll probably check that out. I'm a fan. I always loved Greek mythology as a kid. So yeah, for sure. That sounds cool. I don't know why I haven't checked that out. Yeah, I think I knew about it, but why wasn't I like, yeah, I need this?
Yeah, the same. I hadn't. But I'll probably get the books and get the audio, because at home I like to just actually sit down and read, and then in the car I've got a long road trip this summer, or I should say late spring. So
yeah, we were in Wisconsin last year in the town that we were staying overnight. They had a small bookstore, so Sam went in to get some postcards, and we were kind of looking around, and they had the 3 volumes sort of sitting there, and they were massive. And I was like, even Fry, I know that. And I pulled it out, I looked at it, and then I pulled out my phone and looked at Audible, and they were all available. And I was like, damn, this might be perfect for the ride home.
Yeah.
And it passed the time incredibly.
My wife will not allow audiobooks or podcasts, period. I have to either wear earphones or abstain.
I always have a tendency to have one in and then one
Yeah.
off so I can.
She loves to read. She's a big reader, but audiobooks, I don't know. She doesn't do it. Maybe she just hasn't found the right one. I don't know, but she can't stand them.
See, when I was traveling back and forth to Springfield and St. Louis all the time, that's all I did.
Oh yeah, I used to commute to Jacksonville, which was like about a 90-minute trip each
Right.
way.
Yeah.
So you better believe I was just devouring audiobooks and podcasts. Like I needed them. My life depended on podcasts and audiobooks.
There was like a stretch when I was going to therapy where I probably blew through 12 or 13 books by the time I got done.
Hmm.
Just listening for the road trip back and forth, and then in therapy, just having them in my ears.
Tell you what I
doing this
love
stuff.
are those old school, the expanded universe Star Wars books. They're of varying quality to begin with,
Yeah.
and then sometimes you get just a wild reader on some of those. I really love it. Sometimes
Well,
they're great. I love some of those. Like
yeah.
really, they're like some of my favorite books in some ways. But then some of those are just off the wall.
Yeah. Now, have you listened to any of the From a Certain Point of View books?
No, I haven't.
Really good. They've got each story. They're kind of a short story compilation of each of the original 3 movies.
Right, but it's like from a different character's point of view.
Right.
So it's like
I mean, literally
the mouse
from
bot going through the
yeah.
Death Star.
Actually, that is one of them.
Yeah.
There is a section that and I can't remember. They have a specific name, but basically the meteor worm
Oh yeah, you mean
from
the puppet hand
from
that does this?
Empire. Yeah,
Tries to grab the
that is
Falcon.
like almost celestial beings.
It's
They
like,
go,
oh, I wish I was
yeah,
back on Arrakis.
different set of teeth. But
Different adaptation.
no, but I mean those are really good, and they just recently came out with the Return of the Jedi one, which
It's all
I
Ewoks all the way
haven't.
down, isn't it?
No, I haven't started it yet. I have it on my list that it's already downloaded.
What's the
so-
worst thing it could be? Like Salacious Crumb?
Yes, that would probably be the
Ah,
worst.
the
No, no,
last
no,
will
no.
and testament of Salacious Crumb.
The frogs in Jabba's
Oh no!
yeah.
The pig guy, the Gamorrean guard that just gets eaten immediately.
Well, you know.
And it's all about how this is his last day. He can't wait to
Yeah.
go. He's getting married. His wife is
Right.
pregnant.
He's about ready to have a litter. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
If there's nothing else, oh, well, I guess I'll start the Dune talk a little bit by saying
Okay.
I've been enjoying, and this is not new. If you're in the Discord, you already know this. I have been playing the Dune Battle for Arrakis game on my phone, on my handhelds, anywhere I can get it. And there it is. If you're watching, you can see me holding this up.
Right.
It is a real-time strategy game in the style of like Age of Empires.
Okay.
It's got great music. I don't know if you can hear that. Oh yeah. And so what you do is you're building a base, you're harvesting spice, you're commanding your units to go and attack the other house that you're up against. At the beginning of the game, you get to pick. There's 3 houses: Atreides, Ordos, and Harkonnen, and you can pick between the 3. And you go on like a little campaign where like there's this awesome like little animated mentat that comes up, and it's like, all right, what do you want to do here? This is what we're going to do. And he gives you your mission, and then he gives you a hint, and then you go do it. It's a game I played on Genesis in the 90s. It was my first real-time strategy, I think, ever.
Okay.
So I loved it because it was Dune, but I also loved it because it was a new type of game that I had never experienced before.
Right.
There are some other versions of that game that also came out on like PlayStation and PC. I think it's just called Dune 2 or Dune 2000, depending on where you get it. But for some reason, the Sega Genesis one is like so simplified and like perfect for my brain. And you know, it's the nostalgia factor, of course.
Right.
I can play through those missions just over and over. Like they don't get tiresome for me. There's something about those where you could try it a little bit differently. You can because you can arrange where your different things go. It's like first you got to build a wind trap to generate power. Then you got to build the like a spice refinery, and then that gives you the little crawler that goes out and harvests the spice and then
Right.
brings it back. You also have to worry about the worms, which will eat your crawlers, and the enemy factions. And then later in the game, the Fremen show up and start fucking around. It's pretty cool. It's pretty in depth for Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
So I've got it playing perfectly on my phone, so it works well even that way. So if anybody needs that ROM, let me know.
Gotcha.
You talking about RPGs has my BG3 addiction just
Any updates?
itching underneath my skin. I finished my third playthrough a few days
huge.
ago, and I was like, I have to stop. I have to step away.
Yeah, but then there'll be more content and you can come back and enjoy it all over again.
Yeah. And I still will occasionally watch, the occasional YouTuber talking about something and breaking something down.
Mm-hmm.
I was laying down the other day using the massage gun and just listening to some dude like his personal rankings of all the classes. And he's going on about bards, and I just like out loud to myself, it's like, yeah, I think I'm going to do bard. And 2 or 3 days later, Sam was like, you haven't played your game in a while. I was like, I think I'm taking a break. She's like, aren't you going to do a barb? And I was like, well, you mean a barbarian or a bard? She's like, whatever the fuck. Like,
Look, I'm trying here.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, she could tell. She was like, okay, this must be at a certain echelon if he is into it as much as he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been playing the Dark Forces remaster and Helldivers. Still a lot of Helldivers. But I keep getting glitches that are making me so mad in Helldivers. So like I'll play a couple rounds and then some terrible glitch will happen and I'm like rage quitting for the night.
See, that's I'm waiting till they get that. I'm
some dumb shit is going on. I'll share some glitches in the Discord.
Well, apparently it's just so popular that it keeps,
well, it's not even
chugging
just
up the
that
servers.
It's not even just that like I can get into a game now, no problem.
Right. Oh, okay.
But then the game will just like and then I'm 20 seconds from extraction. It's all hell is breaking loose. There's robots coming over the ridge. There's explosions. There's fire. There's death around every corner.
And then,
but we're doing it.
Message. Yeah.
We're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing it. I throw a grenade. The ship is coming down to collect me. And then everything goes blank, but my character is still there. And I'm just back in the ship. Like I was never in a mission.
Oh.
I received no bonuses. I received no XP. That was like 40 minutes gone.
Oh.
I was
That's
pissed.
hard.
But in more fun gaming news, I've been playing the Dark Forces remaster, which is super fun. I can't recommend it to everyone. It's the level design and just the game design in general for that. It was a little bit different in those times, I think. And it's not your simple kill everybody and go into the next room type first-person shooter. There is some hardcore puzzling, like to the point of like Portal or something.
Yeah.
Some of the puzzling is insane. And there's, they just weren't at the same place as they are with game design now, which for me is a good thing. I like it in the state that it's in. I think modern games a lot of times hold your hand a little too much.
Yeah.
Particularly shooters, like a Call of Duty campaign. There's no way you're not getting through it. They won't let you fail.
Yeah.
But this Dark Forces is like, you could get stuck. You can have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
And I also like that there's no save points in the level. I know that might make me sound crazy, but there's no save points during the level. There's no save states. You either finish the level with the allotted amount of lives that you have, or you don't.
Yeah.
So if you fail, you got to restart it. Just the one mission, which I think is pretty fair.
Can you pause while you're in that level?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, you can pause. But it looks gorgeous. It's just the vibes are perfect for me. Playing Kyle Katarn is the dream. My favorite game maybe ever is Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight. And so like if this game does well, I'm hoping that they will move on and do Jedi Knight, which is like it's the best.
Well, it seems pretty popular. I've seen a lot of.
But I've heard all these
people
things
do it.
over the years, like, oh, we lost the source code for Jedi Knight, and we don't know if that'll ever, I keep hearing things from like devs and stuff, like it doesn't seem likely.
Mhm.
But then I find, and I'm on a tangent now,
Go for it.
then I find that there's all these fan like remakes happening, and not
Yeah.
just remakes, but like reworkings of the original files. Like they can do it.
Yeah.
and I can run it on my Steam Deck, and it's perfect and glorious, and I can crank up the resolution, and it all works perfectly. So what's surely the professionals can do this.
You never know.
Well, I would love it to happen. I want that game to come back. It was the first game. It was like a first-person shooter and you could switch between first and third. You could have a lightsaber. You could have force powers. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. You guys talking about open world. I have been replaying for probably about the fourth time Ghost of Tsushima,
There's
which
it's
is
coming
now
out
coming
on
on
PC.
Steam.
Yeah.
Yep. So
You play
and
that,
then-
Bones?
I started it. I did not get very far into it.
It's a phenomenal game. I should have been game of the year. That's a big sticking point with me that year on.
What did win
Sorry.
that year?
The Last of Us 2
Oh, okay.
was a shit game.
It's gonna be hard to
Anyway.
argue. I don't think most people would agree. I don't know.
Oh, a lot of people would agree. 2 compared to 1 was a shit game, and Ghost got robbed.
I agree that Ghost did get robbed. It's a great game. Although I didn't really play the campaign. I played the multiplayer for like 100
Yeah, we
hours.
played it. We played it a bunch.
It's so good.
Yeah.
But no, the campaign is amazing, and the whole feudal Japan. And speaking of that, in 1, they're supposed to be working on a second game.
Yeah, I think that's been
Which is-
confirmed for some time.
yeah. And then also the director and writer of John Wick is finishing the script of that. And have you guys seen? Speaking of that, have you guys seen Shogun?
I haven't watched it. I know we
No.
covered the trailer.
Yes.
I want
It's-
to. This is the thing where I'm like, all right, I got to drop Max or Netflix so I can get Hulu because I
Yeah.
can't justify going to Hulu just for Shogun yet. But Shogun, another thing that my mother was obsessed with.
Yeah, I mean, Richard Chamberlain, in the original Shogun, but this is really good. I mean,
It looks like a film. It doesn't look like TV.
Yeah, every episode. It's this Tuesday is episode 3. I think we're on 3 or 4. I can't remember. But no, it's gorgeously shot. I mean, very little. Sometimes with the TV specials or series, when they have like grand, landscapes, you can tell it's a little more CG. This looks like, pretty phenomenal.
How do they do with sticking the Cerveza Cristal ads into the show?
No. No. That's on Hulu.
Oh,
But
okay.
anyway, they stick to, in the original TV series, they did a lot of the, all the people from Japan, most of them would speak in English. There was only sometimes that they did subtitles. In this, it's if they are speaking to another Japanese person, it is subtitled. So you get that real feeling in their communication, and a lot of that. How do we want to say that? Like the tradition, and especially it comes across more with that, with the language than if you would try to.
I prefer
Language-
subtitles every time.
Yeah. Language is culture.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. So you said that Chad from, I can't ever pronounce his last name, the director of John Wick, is working on a Ghost of
Tsushima.
Tsushima.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that mean he's already finished and locked the Highlander script? Because I need that already.
We're all
too.
ready.
I'm so ready for that. That is going to be awesome. And he's planning that as a multi-film. Either it's going to be a like movie length episodes where one will come out every year, where it's like on some kind of platform, or it's literally going to be movies.
It needs to be theatrical. Come on.
Yeah. I know the first one is at least slated to be theatrical.
Do we have a year? Or are we not that far yet? Okay.
Not that far yet.
Damn it.
Rewatching Dune 84 this week and being reminded that Toto did the music, I was thinking, oh, I want like Muse to do the music for Highlander. Kind of in the
That's
vein of Queen
That,
doing.
yeah.
that's like a really good observation. Yeah, who would it be? I mean, like Muse is a great answer. I don't know if I could come up with a better answer. That it just seems right.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of a little bit of a similar voice. They could really like hit those kind of like highs and lows. You know, unfortunately, newer band Josh Kiska from Greta Van Fleet can probably pull off that Freddy sound,
Hmm.
and that would be, you know, it's a rock band. They do a lot of, I mean, between, you know, he's changed his sound from when they first started because my daughter's a huge fan, has every album, and even got like a rare one the other day that she lucked out and didn't have to pay $300, only paid like
Hmm.
$30 for. But anyway, it's changed over, you know, and a lot of people compared them, you know, obviously to um,
Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin. It's been a long night.
Ah,
But no,
Chris, it's
they've
noon.
changed. I know. I got about 3 hours of sleep, okay?
We did spring forward.
Yes,
Yeah,
that too.
some of us did.
Yeah. But anyway, no, I mean, yeah, that's the one thing. It's like, I know the soundtrack with Toto, you know, with the 84, but in Highlander, you have to have a phenomenal soundtrack because that's one of the things that made that original movie. So,
I I just feel like Muse is all over the place in a good way. Very
yeah,
operatic, very
Sure.
totally fine with getting into like dark wave synth. I mean, Supremacy is like the best non-Bond song
Bond song.
ever. Yeah.
oh, I can definitely see that.
All right. Well, I think this is probably a good place to get into Dune.
All right.
What the people are all waiting for.
Right.
Dune Part 2. Obviously, there will be spoilers going forward. So if you haven't seen it or read it yet,
Yep.
come on. So I saw it last Sunday.
Last week.
So let me tell you my little story here.
Okay.
I was going to go by myself because I didn't think I was going to be able to go with my friends, who they were all going to go, but I just didn't think it was going to happen. And then I was like, well, I guess I'm going to go by myself. And my wife was like, you don't have to go by yourself. She's like, I'll watch the first one and we'll just, because she hadn't seen it, she didn't want to watch it. So she watched it with me, the first one. And by the time the movie was over, she said, I'm not going with you. She hated it. She doesn't like Dune.
Oh man.
Yeah. It's not for her. She has long had this thing where she doesn't like deserts. She doesn't like in movies, like if there's a desert, she just rolls her eyes and goes, God damn it, I hate this. I don't know what it is.
You sure her main name isn't Skywalker?
It might be. She just like everything about it. She doesn't really like sci-fi. She likes some stuff. She loves horror.
Right.
She's really into horror, but some of the sci-fi stuff she just can't. I don't know. Maybe if she read the book, she would get it more, but I don't know if I think I'm pushing it, trying to get her to read the book. But you know, anyway, and you know, I did try to. We talked about it a little bit, and she let me sort of tell her some of the context for the stuff, and she's like, "Yeah, that all sounds interesting, but the movie, that stuff wasn't even in the movie."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, that's true." So anyway, I ended up seeing it with a friend on the next day, and had a fun time. So I just right up front, I enjoyed it for sure. So I also like the first one. I like the 84. I have a special fondness for the miniseries. I'm a Dune person, so it's not really a surprise that I enjoyed this.
Right.
Chris?
I saw it like on preview night at the Dolby Theater. If you get a chance, this movie deserves an IMAX or the Dolby big screen. It's we haven't gotten a lot of these big cinematic, visually epic movies in a while. That's not where it looks CGI as what I mean.
Mhm.
Obviously, the sandworms weren't there.
Don't tell me
But,
that.
but they looked like they were. But I mean, just on a large scale, I'm not going to compare it to Lord of the Rings by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, visually, that landscape scale, that was this movie.
I think Lord of the Rings is an interesting comparison.
And I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not in my personal opinion, as much as I am a Star Wars fan, the original three Lord of the Rings movies is probably the best trilogy out
I
on
think that's a respectable opinion.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, don't get me wrong, the OG Star Wars is number two, but I won't go to a movie marathon for all three Star Wars, and I've been to two Lord of the Rings, you know,
This is an interesting question.
endless
Like, what's
day.
the best trilogy ever?
Yeah,
We don't have to answer that now. I'm keeping that in my
Right.
pocket.
Gotcha. But no, I mean just scope wise,
Sure.
I I have just a couple of which we can get in when we talk through the movie. Just a couple of little things that I probably wish they did differently.
Okay.
But I mean, in the most part, I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, especially me being like the visual, really breaking down visuals and stuff of movies. We haven't had this in a while, so it I don't really want to give it like a numbers rating, but I would definitely say thumbs up. Go watch.
Sure. Bones.
Let me give you a little backstory. So, first one drops on Max and in theaters mid-pandemic. I'm a little unsure. I think by that point I had already gone and watched No Time to Die, which I wasn't gonna not go see.
I did the same. I did the same.
Yeah, I went to like a 3 o'clock show. It was me and two other people, and I still had my mask on and then moved seats once the movie started because I was still nervous about how, the proximity of stuff.
Sure.
So it dropped Friday night. Sam, why don't we start this? We'll see. About 5 minutes in, I was like, damn it. Why am I watching this at home?
Yeah.
I should have gone. I should have gone. And it blew my mind that Sam was into it as much as she was. She was absolutely creeped out, but enthralled. Like every costume, she was like, oh my God, that looks amazing.
Yeah.
Every little subtle shot. And it was kind of a thing of, like you said, Chris, like we don't get that at this level much,
No.
We get attempts at it.
Sure.
And I think a big part of that is probably like the previs problem.
Yeah.
You're shooting on set because of what has already been dictated in a computer months ago.
Completely agree.
It definitely sparked like, okay, I am into this. I love how he is adapting this. What I remember of being really weird, he is condensing in a palatable way. I love the aesthetic of it. I know some people, I've heard the term like the Apple Store look.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I would
Yeah.
more of like, the Abrams Star Treks have that Apple Store look.
Yeah.
For sure.
This to me feels like true minimalistic futurism in a world where resources are tight and computers are outlawed. I love every choice that he made. So going into this, I was extremely hyped. I had the first Dune at a 4.5 because I wanted to kind of wait and see what they were going to do with the second one. And also I was hoping that they would re-release on IMAX. Sure enough that they did about a month ago.
Yeah.
Him and I went. It was absolutely worth the $45
Yeah. No
to
shit.
go watch it. My only complaint, and it's not a artistic choice, I am not a fan of the ratio change on an IMAX screen. It is, some people don't even notice it. My wife does not notice it.
I
Mhm.
do. I do.
I hate when you go back and forth. I remember the first time it happened during The Dark Knight Rises.
Yep.
I was like, I don't want to do this. And then Top Gun Maverick, I thought managed it as best as they could. So going into Dune 2, I thought I do not want to see that frame rate change or the ratio change. So we went to the Alamo Big Show. And I got to tell you, that might be the best sound in St. Louis because it blew that IMAX out of the water.
That's why anymore I go to the Dolby Theater instead of an IMAX, unless I get one of those places that have that 70 mil IMAX, the gigantic one. But the Dolby is the picture is even better than the IMAX, and the sound is just phenomenal.
I would say of any awards that this could potentially be up for, I think there's no way somebody comes out with something better in sound design or sound mixing.
Yeah.
The Worm Ride is the most intense cinematic experience I've had in 20 years.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Even just stuff as simple as like the thumper noise.
Yeah.
It's so satisfying. I just want that to happen all the time, like in my office.
Well, I went and seen John Wick 4 at the Dolby, and the very first scene, him punching that, you can feel that, like, just shake you. And then when I went for Dune, the Worm Ride alone and the thumpers were amazing. It looked like an earthquake visually because of the speakers rattling, and you're in those chairs with the sound around you and everything else. It freaking amazing.
That's nuts.
When he snaps and tells I forget her, is it Helen, the older Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother?
The Reverend Mother, yeah.
Yeah, when she calls him abomination at the end and he stomps in silence, like was a gap. I like looked around at everybody else.
I mean that
I love that.
That was like a five G's. I was like, whoa, when I saw it at that theater.
So 5 out of 5. This thing is an absolute masterpiece. Yes, I think it's possible to nitpick it and say, they cut this out, but I think his changes are cohesive, make sense, and I'm stoked to see what he does with Messiah.
Yeah,
I totally agree. When I was giving my review on Letterboxd, I was a little bit. There were some things that I just couldn't. It was hard for me to grapple with, like, and spoilers. We're in spoiler country now. It was hard for me to grapple with, like, not seeing Aaliyah, for example. Like, I mean, we saw her technically in those two forms, but not. She should have killed the Baron. That comes into play so much later
in the next couple of books. Yeah,
and it's real weird that she does not kill the Baron.
Yeah.
Plus, I wanted to see like a baby with a knife.
Well, and the fact that she
Spice Baby,
other than like in the womb and in a dream sequence, makes no appearance in this whatsoever.
I will say that I liked the womb stuff. Like, that was all fine.
Oh yeah.
And it was beautiful to look at. But I thought, oh, the timeline surely will jump. None of that happened.
Yeah.
It was a little weird. But before we just go into too many specific things, like, let me just start with the plot here, and we'll just go through them. So, Princess Erlon Carino secretly records in her journal that Paul Atreides may still be alive, while her father, Emperor Shaddam IV, Christopher Walken, is dispirited after assisting in the extermination of House Atreides. On Arrakis, Stilgar's Fremen troops, including Paul and Lady Jessica, overcome a Harkonnen patrol. When Jessica and Paul reach Sietch Tabor, in the book they pronounce it Tabor, but in the movie he said like Tabor.
Okay, can I interject?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
The Harkonnen float. I mean, that you're already sort of. I love that it wakes up and you wake up with Paul, and it has this dreamlike state, like the redness of Arrakis, and it seems off, and you're a little tweaked, and then to have that sequence, I thought was awesome. But them just so casually floating up set the tone for, all right, this thing just kicks the shit out of every VFX.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that can be argued with. Not at all. They look. I can't really think of what was like the worst moment. I can't think of what it even would be.
I mean, even the obvious, like, excessive CGI where she had the baby worm looked, I mean, like it was really wrapped around her. And when she, the fighting in the water.
I honestly couldn't tell you if that was CGI or not.
I know. That's what I mean. I think when it was wrapped around her, it was CGI. But then when she was,
I don't know.
it, yeah, I'm not.
He was
I
just
mean,
holding a pool noodle under there.
but I mean that speaks to how well this movie was done. You can't tell what was CGI and what wasn't.
I
I mean, there
can
were a very small amount of scenes where you could definitely tell, you know, but it wasn't anything that drew you out like a lot of movies we've gotten.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. The only one in the first one that I can think of that kind of stands out
I have one. I wonder if it's the same.
is Paul's dream where he is leading the fight and he's in like the white
The
still
armor,
suit
yeah,
and you're following him and then
Yep.
he turns and the mask opens
Yep.
and you have that sort of Mark Ruffalo and the Hulkbuster floating.
It's a little rough.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
the only one that stands out. And
But it's still like kind of a weirdly iconic for that movie. And they do it again, but in the new one.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. Anyway, let's see. Jessica and Paul reach Sitch. Are we going to pronounce it Tabor like in the movie, or are we going to say Tabor like the book?
however you want to.
well, they even say Siege different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Siech.
Yeah.
Siech. I'll say
I think that's just more of his
for
natural
people who
accent.
have
Yeah,
for people who've just seen the movie, we'll say Siege Tabor.
yeah,
Some Fremen suspect they are spies, while Stilgar and others see signs of the prophecy that a mother and son from the outer world will bring prosperity to Arrakis. Was it confused? Okay, so the stuff with Jameis, I was a little confused. Why Jameis is appearing to him? Do we have any thoughts on that?
I
Just
have
like occasionally.
I have an interpretation. I think they reference like the desert ghosts or the desert spirits.
Hmm.
My thought is even the visions he has in the first one before he meets Janice, he seems as though he's set up to be this guide.
yeah,
And I think in a way, his spirit is guiding him. Him having to kill Janice is obviously is different in the timeline of what we saw in the vision, but his importance on him going forward, almost like the mouse. So the first time I watched the first one, I was sort of confused by that. On a rewatch, it sort of clicked to me.
Yeah. Okay.
You weren't getting Stilgar in his flashes. You were getting
right.
a guy that he actually had to put down.
Plus, maybe
Well-
something with the water. He got the water. I don't know.
And the only other thing I can kind of think of is in his and I after watching the second one, thinking back on that, that was he knew that Jameis was his kind of almost the Alice in Wonderland cake. That's the beginning of his travel to that road.
Jameis said
le-
he had a little
to
sticker on
lead
him that
him
said, "Eat
to-
me,
Well,
drink me,"
stab me.
literally.
Stab me. But anyway, just kind of he was that portal to send him down that road because he had no real other. At that point, he had no real knowledge or intention.
I also like the way that it started out immediately where Dune ended.
Yeah.
And they still have the body with them.
Right.
And it comes into play. Yeah, I like the continuity there too. Because they probably could have gotten away with we're just back in the siege now and whatever, but they know how important it is
Right.
for it to be there. So that's pretty cool.
I don't mind the compression of the timeline. I get that in the book or even in Lynch's that you have this jump and
Yeah.
the sisters there and whatever, but I feel like the first one set a tone where it would have sat weirdly for me if we had a jump. So
Yeah.
on the same point of picking right up where they left off and then sort of crushing, I don't know, with interstellar travel and all of this stuff.
Sure.
In the Dune version, they talk about, the Emperor is totally unaware. Like he's kept in the quiet for 2 or 3 years
Right.
while Fremen are destroying stuff. That doesn't seem believable.
Yeah. Yeah. I grapple with this timeline change because I do think the movie benefits easily. It's easy to see that. But there's some things about Dune that I love that I didn't get to see, and it's just one of those. It's my own expectations, you know. I have to just deal with that. But and there were a few things that really, like, every time we would gloss over one, I was like, God, there's another one. You know, I was a little
Yeah.
bit bummed about that, and it's only because I'm familiar enough with the story that I was like, you know, I had these expectations about what I might see and how I hoped it would go, but you know, that's on me, really.
Well, and that's the hard thing, especially adapting. I mean, with any book, especially that has such a large fan base, you know, as great as Lord of the Rings was, there's nitpicks of that movie, you
Sure.
know, those movies of things being left out or things changing slightly. But I mean, you have to go realize that jump between novel where you can get into such small, minute
Yeah.
details and going to a film, no matter how long you have it, you're still going to have to compress some of that and certain things that don't actually visually drive the movie
Yeah.
or plot wise per se drive the movie as much. You're going to have to throw
Yeah,
by
I
the
get
wayside.
why. And again, I get that. I think that it does help the movie. It's just, you know, me being a
Yeah.
nerd, I guess.
No, I'm same way. There's, you know, that's the old adage: the novel's always better than the movie,
But
I
the
mean,
movie,
no matter how great the movie is.
yeah. What were you saying?
I don't know. It's gone.
My mutant power works again.
Yes. Stilgar informs Jessica that their Reverend Mother is dying, and she must become her replacement by drinking the water of life, a fatal poison for males and the untrained. However, Jessica successfully transmutes the poison, surviving and inheriting the memories of every female ancestor in her lineage. This is one of those scenes where I had such an expectation from the book, and I feel like we really glazed over the fact that Jessica is now like all the old school. She is all the Bene
Almost,
Gesserits. You know what
yeah.
I mean? She's absorbed all of them. It's the movie doesn't hide that from you, but it also doesn't make really a big deal out of that, and it's not really visually represented.
Represented.
Yeah, in a way that I didn't expect it to be. Like it was really they changed the focus of that scene to just be about the baby,
Mm-hmm.
Aaliyah. It completely changes from her receiving all that knowledge and all the personalities and all the memories and all that, which is huge in the books and really affects her character later extremely.
Yeah.
And it just becomes again up just about Aaliyah, and then we don't even get Aaliyah.
Yeah.
So for me, that's like a double bummer.
Well, that was one of the things, you know, they threw that line. Oh, we how big of a mistake we made that she was pregnant, and then it
Mhm.
never really went anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, that was this, and then I would say with the water, I mean, they tried to kind of do some of the visuals with, you know, what their visions were. That little part is where I kind of think the Lynch version, like,
I think Lynch kind of
I
nails
mean,
that.
that's what I mean. That
Yeah.
that kind of surpassed this one on that with both Jessica and Paul.
But would that be too far into fantasy or whatever for this vision of Dune? I feel like this version sort of tone down the weirder, more fantastical
I
elements.
think with it being such a vision and with that the water of life being such a traumatic experience, I think you could lean into that just for those two moments.
Hmm. That's
You know
true
what I'm
because it
saying?
is in her mind.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, it's like you're being tortured and dying, you know.
Mhm.
So who knows, what dreams may come.
Anyway, that's just a nitpick.
Yeah. I think for me, you know, you have to have you have to set this and rate it in comparison to the first one and what they set up.
Mhm.
Right.
So the visions of Jessica with the tattooed face and the different stuff, that to me is, as much as we talk about Janice, like that being a potentially different avenue or timeline had he not killed him or came
Right.
across them in a different scenario. I thought that those projections of Jessica, once he really starts freaking out, set the tone for me, where I could accept the quickness at which she becomes a Reverend Mother.
Right.
And aesthetically, I prefer this version with, I think the way that the spice hallucinations come is a little bit better, because you're not having the internal monologue like Lynch's does.
Right.
You're not, I the sort of setup, the harvester scene when he first gets the big massive dose of it, and then
Right.
out later on when they're staying overnight. I think I prefer those sort of spaced out, and then his internal visualizations also spaced out more so than the Lynch version.
Yeah, well, and it's all really cohesive and works in the new
Yeah.
version.
Yeah.
So like again, I can quote complain about it, but it's not, the movie's good. Any weird nitpicks I have are just, I think, just my own
Yeah.
problem.
I think you were on something with the fantasy element. It seems less fantastical and more mystical.
Yeah.
Sure.
Especially Herbert was a big mushroom user, right? Isn't
I think that's true.
Yeah.
Yep. He was a bit of a nasty little guy sometimes. Some of the stuff I've heard, and all the sex in these books. I don't know. What are you up to, Frank? Old Frank. uh anyway. Um Remarkably, the water also prematurely awakens the mind of her unborn daughter, Aaliyah, allowing Jessica to communicate with her. Together, they agree that convincing the skeptical in northern Arrakis of the prophecy should be their first priority. Chani and her friends Shishaki, Shishakli, I don't remember that name, believe the prophecy is false and designed to control the Fremen. When Paul delivers a speech about not seeking power but wanting only to fight alongside them, Chani develops respect for him. That is another change for the new version. The real focus on Chani, which I don't mind at all. And in fact, I think I prefer that, because I like the point of view that, like, this is all a lie anyway. I like that aspect of it. And then, like in a realistic world where people have different opinions, she has a different opinion about something. But I think it makes an interesting point to go along with the story, and like, she might be right from the beginning.
I'm gonna have to disagree on this one, because the only thing is, one, I'm not a huge Zendaya fan. And Chani in the books, their relationship between her and Paul is more of a Romeo and Juliet esque, which makes things that happen in the next couple of books a little more tragic. And because Jessica is not the queen, wasn't the Baroness, she was the concubine.
Oh yeah.
And that was established, and Chani knew that in the books, what her kind of role was, and she knew what Paul's intentions were with something that happens later. And the fact that through this whole thing, even though she said, her basically her love for Paul, she was always side-eyeing through the whole thing. And that wasn't portrayed, to me, it wasn't portrayed in the book that way.
It's quite different in the movie.
until it really in later kind of falls off a cliff. So, and that was the one thing that I really didn't like with this, that there was no real change in her perception of him, per se, outside of their quote-unquote romance, which was different, way different. I didn't mind her doing the taking control of the worms, the teaching him that kind of stuff. It was just their dynamic, which I had a hard time, and I didn't feel a huge amount of chemistry. Which, by reading the book, and even the other, the Lynch version, I think there was more chemistry between Chani and Paul than in this one. Just my opinion. Like
Yeah.
I said, because it makes what happens later even more tragic, because the fact that she was so willing, per se, with to go with Paul and do the things that they did.
Sex.
So,
They had sex.
well, not just that.
They had sex. Yes, they
Not
did. They
not
totally
just
did.
that.
You might not
Oh,
have
I'm
caught it.
sure
It
they.
was kind of subtle, but they were
No,
doing it.
it wasn't subtle.
They were doing it.
They were sweating and naked. It wasn't subtle.
Yeah.
Is that like the one time you can give up moisture?
I guess.
Yeah. Oh, I want to know the
each
Fremen
other.
rules about it.
Do they have like a Ziploc bag underneath of them?
Like
or?
a sex tent that collects all the
Yeah.
excess.
Oh, that's the first
It's
thing we're
got
building.
some vacuum bag underneath of them.
Yeah. You got to run you hear the generator start up and you know what they're doing.
Sounds like a Hoover.
DK, I think you bring up an interesting point. I like Zendaya in this.
Mhm.
I feel chemistry. I think I get what you were saying, Chris. I like that she's given more agency.
Yeah.
And not just from her singular perspective. I thought you brought up an interesting point that there would be people within the Fremen that would be sort of reluctant to this
Yeah.
prophecy.
Well,
And
she even says like, in the South, they're all extremists down there. They're traditionalists.
yeah. And I think it makes it even more tragic that she is still so attracted to him.
I agree
with him.
Yep.
And
it's even harder on her. Yeah.
So while it is relayed that he is making a very difficult decision, he is still giving in, and she's forced with a difficult decision, but she does the more honorable thing of just leaving. So it's a great dichotomy between the really religious zealot Fremen that are ready to go do the jihad, and she's riding off to kind of maintain what she's fought for. So
yeah.
Well, and that's what I think reading the book and not reading the book makes a difference on watching it. Because I mean, I'm fine with her having more, more in it to do technically than really originally was written down. But I think the core of that relationship, that I still don't really like that at every turn, even though she is so attracted to him, and they have that between them. She doesn't. It's always, when is he going to fail me? And that was never written like that. Like I said, I'm fine with Johnny having more agency throughout the story, but it's the relationship is the one thing that sticks me, because like I said, if you never had, thinking of a relationship, if you always think that someone's going to do bad at some point, even though they're good, if something tragic happens, it's like, oh, I've seen this coming. And it's easier to make that hard decision as compared to someone that's all invested,
See
and
what
then
you're
coming
saying.
to the realization you have to make that hard decision.
I see what you're saying.
Because she's never fully all in.
Well, there's a whole Dune 3 to talk about. So hopefully,
I mean,
so
and
we'll
that's
see.
why I'm not saying anymore.
Well, that's another thing that changes. Like they have a first son who is killed. That doesn't even happen in the movie. I thought for sure that we would see that, and that doesn't happen either because the time jump.
Right.
So anyway, that is definitely a change to be considered.
Right.
You think she's pregnant?
Yeah.
Do you think she's pregnant? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. And that's why I think that her just writing off, because they had, in the book, they had that conversation of what Paul had to do.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't much, I mean, but there was that conversation of, like, they boiled that conversation in the book down to, no, as long as I breathe, I will love you no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a more in-depth conversation, a more understanding conversation, I guess. So
Well, and the first book ends with Jessica and Chani talking about the power that they will have as as the concubine
right,
versus the queen. She's like actually trying to console her because a large latter part of the book is Jessica questioning Chani's relationship with him and
right,
can she trust him, because as much as they imply that she's a fighter and capable, she is a spirit guide, or a guide in the ways of the Fremen, more so
right,
in the book. In the movie, she is a fighter.
right, and,
And
almost strictly that.
yeah, and I think it would be difficult to do both.
Sure.
I don't think
With
so.
the time we have, you know.
Well,
That's
I mean,
but the yeah.
Yeah.
and I honestly, I think they could have pulled it off. There could have been, even just a small dialogue back and forth with those kind of things. I mean, because to a degree, his visions had her as that spiritual guide in the first one.
Yeah.
And in the second one, the only thing was, his vision of her burned from the atomics. Really,
I would rather spend 30 minutes watching Fade Ralpha just have the best birthday of his life.
100%. And you've got Stilgar there who's doing sort of both already.
right,
Yep.
right.
Yep.
I just that was my one real nitpick.
All right.
The major nitpick was that.
All right. Paul and Chani fall in love as Paul embraces the Fremen ways, learning their language, taking part in rites such as riding a sandworm, becoming a Fedaykin fighter, and helping raid Harkonnen's spice operations. Paul takes on the Fremen names Usul and Muad'Dib. Due to the devastating spice raids, Baron Harkonnen replaces his nephew Raban as Arrakis's ruler with his psychotic, murderous younger nephew Elvis Presley. Fade Ralpha.
Can we say that was probably one of the most visually stunning, just almost monochromatic
that whole
scenes
half
ever?
hour or whatever it was maybe my favorite part of the movie.
And I love
I don't
the
know,
effect
maybe
that
I'm
they
just
used
an old
with
goth.
the quote unquote black sun. The effects they used with
So
that.
cool.
Yeah.
Just
Shot with
the start.
infrared cameras.
So cool. Yeah. Lady Margot Fenring, a Bene Gesserit, is sent to evaluate Fade's suitability as a prospective Kwisatz Haderach and to seduce him in order to secure his genes. Love that shit. I love that.
And
the seduction scene, we finally get to see Bene Gesserits doing like their thing.
Can we say,
God damn it, I love that.
Lea Seydoux steals every scene she's in.
She's great.
I mean, and she's not even in it all that much, but every scene that she's in, she completely steals.
I loved it. That was great.
I mean, hell, that was the main reason why I bought Death Stranding.
Yeah,
it's been said over and over again, but Butler's voice work.
Oh, to steal Stalin and Skarsgård's.
Yeah, is absolutely incredible. This guy's setting himself up to just, if ever he uses his own voice, we're all going to be disappointed.
Hey guys.
Yeah, well, he's hopefully he doesn't become a Tom Hardy where he has to start from the voice and work backwards, and half the time it doesn't work.
No shit.
Yeah, and of all the things that he's done, this is probably the most transformative character. I mean, I know he was all in with Elvis, and got that accent stuck on him for a while until he started doing something else. But I mean, as a character, holy hell in a handbasket, that dude is just a phenomenal actor.
Yeah,
as a young guy.
I'm glad to see Fade kind of portrayed
right
so faithfully. I mean, Sting is interesting. I don't think he gets the character right at all.
No,
really.
No.
This version of Fade is really cool. I love the scene when when the Baron says, "Don't ruin my nephew's birthday." I laughed out loud hard in the theater. No one else. My friend Mike also laughed, but we were like, "Are we the only ones that thought that was hilarious?" Like that, it was really funny. I thought those scenes were weirdly my favorite stuff in the movie. I want to see that stuff again for sure. And yes, just like one more time, the Bene Gesserit seduction and Jean securing. That's cool as hell. I
Yeah.
love it. There's so much weird sex stuff that is not being shown in this version, which is a little sad, but you know, it is what it is. Oh, we didn't talk about, we kind of glossed over some of the raids and stuff Paul was doing.
Right.
The Hoth raid that they did with the walker
Yeah.
and the rocket launcher.
Those
That was awesome.
mines that they had, those magnetic mines, were
That was
awesome.
cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when they meet Gurney, right?
Right. Well, yeah, with the magnetic mines. Yeah.
Yep. That was cool. All those shots and all those scenes were really neat.
Yeah. And it was CGI done right.
Yeah.
I mean, it
for
didn't
sure. It
look,
looked great.
you know. So.
And those oily fireworks.
That was really interesting, just the way they portrayed that. Just that industrial, you know, it wouldn't be this bright, sparkly. It looked like, you know, oil dropped on a vat of water splat.
I'm into it. I want those for real.
Yeah.
All right. Jessica travels south to unite with more Fremen fundamentalists, but Paul fears his visions, which show him a holy war will manifest if he goes south as a messiah. Staying in the north, he reunites with Gurney Halleck, who leads him to House Atreides' hidden atomic stockpile. Fade Ralpha attacks Siege Tabor, whatever, and kills Shishakli, which forces the survivors, including Paul, to journey south. Anything there?
I mean, I enjoy just how brutal Fade's approach is.
Yeah.
You know, that it seems, you know, you get a little bit more Batista in this.
Yeah.
I love how weak they make him. You do get that scene where he like smashes the dude. So he has the rage in him, but
I
he
love
just
that.
doesn't have the mentality for it.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
he can't align and focus like Fade can.
He's an angry idiot.
Yeah.
So at first you might think, well, why the fuck didn't Batista do that? But Fade's completely different. His approach, he is a better tactician.
Right.
Mhm.
More
And can-
intellectual psycho.
He played a lot more Dune Battle for Arrakis on Sega Genesis. I know it.
Yeah, Fade was more of an American psycho, while, you know, Batista was more of a bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
All right. Upon arriving, Paul drinks the water of life and falls into a deep coma. Chani awakens him by mixing her tears with the water of life across his little lips. He attains both prescience and knowledge of the past, seeing a vision of an adult Aaliyah on a water-filled Arrakis, and discovering that Jessica is the Baron's daughter, making Paul both an Atreides and a Harkonnen. Pretty big revelation there.
Right.
Again, that part of the book always seemed like a bigger deal to me when Paul is in his coma or whatever, but it kind of just glides across, which it's fine. How interesting can you make a guy laying on the floor?
Well, and that's like I said before. I know, you know, we talked about that with the visualization in this movie compared to Lynch's, but I think that's kind of a little more where the Lynch movie kind of made more visual than just stated.
That is what I love about the Lynch version, is that it's so wildly out there. And when there's something, outrageous, you're going to see it.
Yeah.
Everything's outrageous in that movie.
but you know, like Bones said, this is a totally different aspect of it, and it's hard to get that to not make it look.
Lynch is
almost
Batman
campy.
Forever.
Yeah.
Lynch is Batman Forever, and Dune is Batman Begins. The new one is Batman Begins.
Yeah.
I think our listeners will understand what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, the thing rewatching Dune 84 that stood out is the set deck.
Yeah.
Like that. Those are the fucking all-stars of that movie.
Well, and like if there's anything possible weird that Lynch can show you, he shows it to you.
Yeah.
Like the Spice Navigator, the Guild Navigator.
Yeah.
We don't even see those
Mm-mm.
for real, in the new one at all. So David Lynch being like, here's a navigator for like 5 minutes. Just have fun looking at this weird puppet. Incredible. And the guy like sweeping the thing.
Right.
I love it. I appreciate the weirdness, or like the thing they added with the Baron collecting diseases.
Yeah.
All those weird little details. That's what makes it great. The dogs, like the Atreides have the pugs. Why? It's not in the book.
No.
I love it though. I appreciate the flourishes, the Lynch flourishes. That's it. Where are we? Where are we? Oh,
We get the sea, right? He sees the projection of the sea, the soon to be paradise, and we see Anya Taylor-Joy.
yep, yep. So then Southern Fremen leaders urge Paul to challenge Stilgar for leadership, but he refuses and instead proves himself by reciting the thoughts of two Fremen spectators. It was pretty easy for him to just do those two guys. He declares himself the Lisan al-Gaib and sends a challenge to Shaddam, who then arrives on Arrakis with Irulan, Mohiam, and his Sardaukar troops.
I think Butler is going to get a lot of praise because of the voice work and how terrifying he is.
He's great.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, big scale movie like this, it is the supporting actors that are able to kind of have a little bit more fun and they stand out to us. You know, Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight.
Yep.
Chalamet, I respect the guy. Okay. The switch that he flips in this scene,
Oh yeah,
tells me.
Yeah.
His post Water of Life, I am on board. I think he is carrying the film.
I could agree. I could definitely agree.
Yeah, I definitely gained more respect in his acting after that scene. Compared to all the other ones beforehand.
Sure.
Well, yeah, he feels more of a 15 to 18-year-old that grows up really quick versus McLaughlin, who seems like a stunted 31-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's always whispering to himself.
Oh God.
Do you like that voiceover?
I hate the whispers.
You don't like it?
I hate it.
I think I love it.
And I hate the Harkonnen. Like, it's funny, it's gross, and it's very Lynchy, but it's not intimidating.
Right.
You're right.
I don't feel like those Harkonnens would have any power.
They're goofy weirdos.
Yeah, they would fight amongst themselves constantly, and
they're like trashy trailer park guys almost. I agree with you. The Harkonnens are way more better represented in the new version. I totally agree.
Oh, definitely.
But speaking of voiceovers that I do or don't like, I finally watched The Killer last night. Has anyone seen The Killer?
The Fincher?
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't bite for me, man. I don't
Me
know
neither.
if it requires another watch.
I don't think so. I don't think it's great. Too much voiceover, first of all. And I didn't really understand what the story was doing. I don't know. I didn't love it.
Yeah, it didn't click as a comedy to me. Whereas Fight Club, the first time I saw Fight Club, this is ridiculous.
Are people saying it was a comedy?
I think that's the point of The Killer is you're supposed to watch it in an American Psycho sort of.
And I felt that a little bit. I did.
Yeah.
Because like he'll say one thing and then something else will happen, or he'll totally ignore his own stupid advice.
Yeah.
And he's also such an unlikable character. I didn't get it. I don't know. But
I talk about this on 5DR constantly is I don't mind if you're bad, but you got to be likable. And if you're bad and unlikable, you're sick. The hole that you're in is 6 times deeper.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So
the moment he killed that guy in the cab, I was like, well, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
To bring it back to Dune, like the Barons in the 84. Like I said, I'm just annoyed by him. I'm not afraid of him.
Right.
Yeah. The Baron in DV's version is absolutely terrifying, but I cannot look away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him wiping the sweat off of his face,
Always.
Donna,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the sound of his grav suit, and like lifting him up is way
Right.
interesting than
Him being on the ceiling like a goddamn Japanese ghost in the first
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
versus the Kananga balloon I'm alive spin
Oh, yeah.
around that he does in 84.
I'm so glad you can give me references like Kananga Balloon. Thank you.
That's funny.
I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, it's beautiful. Let's see. Paul's Fremen surround Shaddam's forces and attack using atomics and sandworms. The Sardaukar are overpowered. Paul kills the Baron, and Shaddam and his entourage are taken captive. Gurney intercepts and kills a fleeing Raban. I don't like that Paul kills the Baron.
Right.
I like that for this version because he avenges his father and all that, and he makes his point. But just again, knowing the story so well, it's confusing to me why it would not be Aaliyah. But I guess if they're changing the timeline like they were, this is just one of those sacrifices they had to make.
Right.
So it is what it is. I'm not going to cry about it all day. It doesn't ruin the movie by any means.
No.
It just makes me, when I'm sitting there in the theater going, what the fuck? Why did this happen? I'm having trouble enjoying it because I'm like, well, how are they going to, it's just my dumb brain.
Go ahead, Bones.
I was just gonna say it is a fun scene when she gets him with the Gom Jabbar in the Lynch version.
Right.
So I agree, but it does come down to he is folding in Messiah a little bit. Seems like his intent is just to make a trilogy out of that. I don't know how much further he's thinking.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't know, like how much. I don't know how much further they could go. Like they certainly won't get into the third book. There's no possible way. But I wonder, they're not going to compress all of.
Well,
I don't know.
I was going to say, I just saw an interview with him. He's almost wanting to wait at least like 5 years before starting the new movie.
I did see he wants there to be a gap.
So, I mean, and that was the kind of thing like you were talking about, DK, just the compression of time or the not compression of time that they chose with this one at times was a little like, okay, that with reading the books was kind of confusing to me, like where they decided. I mean, it fit to their quote unquote version that they were doing, but like I said, it was kind of that where they compressed time and where they didn't compress time kind of threw me off a little bit after reading those. But yeah, from what he said, that he wants to wait 5 years, and it's gonna be the next one is gonna be kind of a combination of Messiah and children.
That's interesting.
Well, I also saw him on Colbert this week, and he said Colbert asked him about, "Are you going to make another one?" And he very, very much said, like, there is a book called Dune Messiah, and I would love to do that because I would love to finish the story of Paul Atreides.
Okay,
he seems very adamant that is what he's trying to do. Like that is his shit. I know Sam's name. Who's Elijah Wood in Lord of the Rings? Frodo. Jesus. Shows you how much I love Lord of the Rings. But like, if you look at those are, mainly Frodo's journey, and they're kind of everything you get ahead of that are different characters. So
sure,
because I don't see how Warner Brothers doesn't go, all right, what's the prequel series that we can get?
Isn't there a TV show supposedly happening?
The Bene Gesserit.
Yeah, the Bene Gesserit show.
Is that connected to this timeline?
I don't know. I was going to say, I think.
But is it actually connected? Will there be any overflow at all? Like, is it in the same universe, or is this just like,
no?
Hey,
here's
another general Dune thing?
I think from what I've read, the end of this like limited series is going to lead up into Dune Part 1.
Okay, like them landing on Carino to test Paul or something.
Somewhere in regards to that, I don't know. Like, will it be Jessica just going to Paul's father, kind of the end of it, kind of thing. But
Oh, she's not. I think was she not like purchased by Paul's father? Isn't it that he bought her? Isn't it something like that? They say in the book like, oh, the buyers investigated. I think he purchased Jessica.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's how
I
it went.
mean,
I could be way wrong.
they sort of
Background check, like
They did do a background
yeah,
check.
yeah.
Interesting. Anyway, doesn't really matter. I also will say this, and I think probably the biggest reason for the changes is that you know they're trying to take these. I think DV is trying to make a certain more concise point with these movies. The messaging is a little bit more clear than even the books. And so I think, I'm okay with them sort of sharpening the tip of the spear or whatever analogy you want to use to get those points across. So fine. If these changes are going to happen, fine. If it gets people to read the book, great. I still have Lynch. I shouldn't even be complaining. I still have Lynch. I still have my beloved TV miniseries. I'm good. Like
Yeah.
all this stuff is just excellent extra. So, I should not be complaining. And I had such a good time seeing the movie and I really enjoyed the movie.
Well, and then I don't think it's really complaining. It's just some differences that we have. It's little, like we said, the movie is really good. There's slight nitpicks just because, for the most part, because of the novels. And things that per se we wanted to see translate from the novels, maybe a little better, or not even saying little better, just
Just differently.
more, yeah, more closely to that than. But
And-
yeah, I mean that's
first novel and the Lynch adaptation, pretty positive, pretty heroic.
Yeah.
This is pretty in your face, like tragedy.
Yeah.
This is a good thing that's happening.
Right. 100%. And I like that about it because I think that's what Herbert is ultimately trying to tell you.
right.
It's a warning. But anyway, we have one more paragraph here.
Okay.
As Paul challenges Shaddam for the throne, demanding Irulan's hand in marriage, the great houses arrive in orbit. Paul threatens to destroy Arrakis' spice fields with the Atreides atomics if they intervene. Shaddam chooses Feyd-Rautha as his champion, and the two engage in a knife duel where Feyd nearly kills Paul, and Paul fatally stabs him. I like the fight. It was a good fight.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking, this might be going a little long, and then it was over. So it was like, I thought it was perfect.
Yeah.
And I liked it. It was brutal. It was hand to hand. It was pretty well choreographed, and I liked the setting of all the people watching, and it was good.
Yeah. No score.
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
Yeah.
Just the scuffles and the impacts.
Yeah.
I think Hans definitely missed an opportunity to kind of recall the Dark Knight Rises score by just doing like Feyd-Rautha, Fade.
That I love that.
It's
but
right there.
I don't think it's going to happen. Did you do the thing where you sent your voice in for that? There was a thing where you could send in your clips. They're like, "Hey, say this in this rhythm, and we'll use it in the movie." Maybe. Did you?
Oh
do
no,
that?
I wasn't even aware.
Oh well, you missed out.
Shit.
I remember. I didn't do it, but I remember that.
Yeah. Anyway, Irulan agrees to Paul's demand of marriage on condition that her father lives. Shaddam kneels and kisses Paul's signet ring, his ducal signet. I love the word ducal. Ducal makes me laugh every time. Above Arrakis, the great houses refuse to accept Paul's ascendancy, so Paul orders the Fremen to attack the orbiting fleet in response. As Stilgar leads the Fremen onto captured Sardaukar ships, Jessica and Aaliyah reflect that this is the beginning of Muad'Dib's holy war. Chani refuses to bow, and Paul departs on a sandworm. I thought it was weird that what's his name just jumps on the ship. Stilgar. He's just like, let's go. Like he's ready to go. He just runs onto that ship like, let's do this. No prep. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they've been fighting, the Harkonnen all this time, so it's not like they've, we don't know necessarily the time stretch
Well, and he
per
wants
se.
nothing more than to just die for Paul. I mean, that's
Yeah,
all it is.
yeah, and it is. So, I mean, as a unit with all the Fremen, they've been fighting together for all this time. So I can see, I can
Mhm.
overlook just, you know,
It didn't bother me, but
lightly
it
running
just
on. Yeah,
it occurred to me. I was like, oh, he's just jumping on that ship. Like, okay, great.
It's a good juxtaposition because he is the comedic relief for the first half of the movie.
Yeah,
Like every reaction that he has, and the
he's got some great stuff in the
yeah,
movie.
yeah,
He really
so
does.
he's so humble, those sort of things. And then by the end, that he is just screaming and ready for jihad
I
is
yeah,
do.
heartbreaking.
I
yeah.
think his performance is maybe going to be overlooked a little bit, but it's really good. You're totally right. His whole arc, in the first one, he's kind of stiff, but in this second one, he really goes on a journey. I love it.
Well, it's that whole destruction of his people kind of broke his stoicism, I guess
Mm.
you could say. So off of that first one, so and you kind of see it even in that early where they attack the spice freighter.
Yep.
Really hard pressed to think of an ensemble where there is zero questioning of any of the casting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the casting of the worm tamer, that
Yes.
short little
yeah,
lady, like her being like bow-legged added something to it. I mean, just from the most minor detail,
That
the
felt
kill the
real.
navigator
Yeah.
dude in the beginning of Dune One has such like the real small ears has such an interesting look
right.
Yep.
between just like the fact that it's diverse and
Even the
everybody is capable.
even when Paul and Jessica are being taken to the desert, those Harkonnens on the ship, they're all memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. You're right. You're right.
Well,
Every person is perfectly cast.
well, and then what we've kind of brushed over. One of the actresses, Rebecca Ferguson,
Yeah, she's
is Lady
amazing.
Jessica. I mean,
Thinking
she's
about her
so.
all the time, dude.
Yeah, no, she's fantastic.
But I mean, yeah, she brings a whole new level. I've seen some people say, well, it's almost that she's kind of flip-flopped personality from the Lynch movie where she was more stoic in the beginning, but then later more kind of.
This is more true to the character, I think.
I was gonna say that's
She's buying
I
into
would
the
disagree because
she's the one perpetrating the,
I was gonna say
you
she's
know.
even more manipulating the situation
Yeah.
than the rest of
But this
the
is what I was hinting at
Bene
earlier.
Gesserits.
Her Benny Gesserit self is really coming together there.
Yeah.
And that going forward really dictates her character choices. So it's interesting to me how it's going to go. Let's just say that.
And I mean, even her facial expressions. Once to the point that she takes over the Reverend Mothership of the Fremen, of the Southern Fremen,
Yeah.
and just she completely switches that
And that's why I
character.
wish there was just a touch more driving home the fact that she is now the embodiment of the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah,
She is those thousands of lives,
I can see it not being as played as much because of the fact that like Bone said, this is like Frodo's story was to Lord of the Rings. This is Paul's story, and all the
Right, but they're making her just as much I'll say villain. She's almost a villain at this point. They're really pushing her towards that. So
I can see that. I mean,
why wouldn't you give you slight more piece of the puzzle to
right.
say like this is really why?
Oh, I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all, but I can see why they didn't
Yeah.
per se.
Chris,
Well,
I'm not mad at you about this.
No,
I think it's
I
there
don't
because, in the first one, she wakes him up and she is terrified that he's going to go through the Gom Jabbar.
right.
I mean, she's outside the door, panicked. She's praying along.
Yeah.
You are so invested in her as a mother, but still so connected to Bene Gesserit that in this one, when it switches, I can totally see the audience going, "Well, why would she flip like that? And why is she all cold now?"
Yeah.
I think it's the foundation has always been there,
Yeah.
and I think that impact makes it stronger. had there been a little bit more of a transition to the Switch, it may have been a little bit more forgivable. But it being such a switch
Right.
makes you more uncomfortable, and now you're questioning what are her true intentions. The
Yeah,
mother's
that-
gone; she's now Reverend
Right.
Mother.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I told that's where I was trying to go with it. You just said it a little more eloquently than I did, but yeah, that's and it's
That's a good point for sure.
such an outstanding performance. I mean, I know it won't get it, but I mean, supporting actors, supporting actresses, the, this movie should win just a shit ton of awards. I know it's not going to because they're going to give it some shit movie that nobody hardly seen, like they have for the last 10 years.
I
But
finally watched Everything Everywhere All at Once. Speaking of, I mean, not that I thought it was bad, but that was a movie that won so many awards, and I just hadn't
Yeah.
seen it yet. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
yeah,
Good.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
I thought it was fine. I never got the hype with it, but
I got why people loved it, but I would put it like 4 out of 5 stars. It didn't like punch me in the face, but I liked it. I mean, yeah, it's a great movie, of course. Deserving of the praise.
Well, the pattern always seems
Mm.
to be that there's a parasite, and then right around the corner there's a green book that might even been before. But
right.
every time we think the tide's going to shift and we're all right, we're going to get everything everywheres and it's going
Yeah.
to be great, and then Oppenheimer kind of rides the line, and I guarantee you next year it'll be some, not to say that that's wrong, some low budget drama that touches on some sort of issue, and
Right.
it's the safe bet.
Right. Yep.
This
You're
should
right.
honestly be the Return of the King this year in the awards. The movie that finally gets, that sci-fi fantasy-ish big budget movie that should get the accolades not only because of visually and sound, but just this ensemble was just I can't think of a movie so far this year or hearing anything that's coming out that could beat this.
It's got all the ingredients, I think.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be Oppenheimer this year, though, right? So are they going to want to then course correct?
Well, but Dune's not eligible for this year's Academy Awards.
Oh, I got what you're saying. I'm just saying in terms of like how we
Oh,
always
yeah, yeah,
we
yeah,
always
yeah.
course correct. So we'll get
Right.
Oppenheimer this year, and then next year it'll be something.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. But we think it deserves it. We're going to give out
Yeah.
some awards.
Right.
Give me your address, Timothy Chalamet.
Well, yeah, and maybe it gets snubbed, and then in a few years, Messiah comes out and it answers everybody's questions, and it's a little bit,
Right.
it ties the room together, dude,
Oh, hell yeah.
and he gets rewarded as such.
Right.
Nothing is
We'll
fucked here,
see.
dude.
Nothing is or everything is. It's one of the two.
All right. Any more final thoughts on Dune Part 2?
Go see it in an IMAX or a Dolby, and to really appreciate, I mean, just the sound and the visuals alone. But if you don't have the opportunity, go see it in a regular theater because it's definitely one of the must-watch this year.
I concur. I mean, for every Megan that comes out that gets a bunch of charge and people go out and see, and we think, man, let's get mid-budget movies again.
Yeah.
To the theater. I do think it's important to get big tentpole spectacle movies, and if you can have a big tentpole spectacle that also makes you think and feel something, that
Absolutely.
that's a perfect mixture.
A good tentpole spectacle movie.
There are so few of them anymore that I care about.
Yeah.
So to be able to go see one and it'd be so good is an amazing treat.
I have not been this hyped for something. I mean, when they bumped it from October, I was absolutely crushed. But I understood it. We had the strike and everything. You've put a lot of money into this, and I think it was a great time of year for them to put it out. And I don't know. Hopefully in a few years when he does do Messiah, we'll be able to then go back and do double features of Dune and Dune 2, and I will be there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
definitely.
I do look forward to rewatching these forever. Absolutely true. They're very rewatchable.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
wonder what a double feature would be like for these. I wonder how that would
I mean, it
go.
would virtually be seamless.
That's
I
what
mean,
I'm thinking.
really,
Yeah. I would love to
it's
spend an entire afternoon watching
six
Dune.
6.5 hours.
Yeah.
Hey, I've spent
Yeah.
12 watching the extended Lord of the Rings, so
I've done it as well,
I
more than once.
That's a Blu-ray I'll buy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa. All right. Well,
Thanks for having me, guys.
yeah, thanks for
Thanks
being
for being
here.
on.
I couldn't think of anyone better to have help us get through this thick ass Dune. Uh, again, Bones is on the incredible 5 Day Rentals podcast. I urge you to check it out. Chris will never be on that show, and I'm very excited for their coming episodes. I'm a huge fan
Making
of
me
that show.
feel worse than you're making him feel.
What am I, Matt Damon on what's his face?
We just didn't have time for
Kimmel?
Chris.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Anything
Thanks.
you? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying thanks for that 5 Day Rentals. Check us out. I'm also in the Nerds Geeks Discord. Every once in a while, I'll throw something up and spark an argument.
Yep.
I hope so.
Try to kindle an argument between DK because
Easy to do.
It's always
It
it's
does
always
do.
great when DK posts something that he's excited about, and while you're in there, you see Chris typing.
Here it comes. Yeah,
The first sentence is no offense, but
this is very real.
this is
When
totally
it says-
wrong. I love
yeah.
you, but you're wrong. We can read through it.
You always know what's coming when it says no offense or to be honest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Well, thanks for being here, Bones.
Oh, I love it.
I appreciate you spending the time with us.
Awesome having you.
Yeah. That's it. Check out 5 Day Rentals. Listen
Yep.
to our Phantasm 5 episode. I urge you to do this. And yeah. I don't know. That's it, I guess. It's over. Go home and
It's
lay
over.
down.
Go home. What are you still doing here?
This is long for you guys.
Yeah.
So it depends when I'm here.
That's what it is. Yeah. Exactly. You just add that extra spice.
Right.
The spice is flowing. I don't know. What awkward moment will I
I know.
cut it
right?
off on?
Who
Is it
knows?
now?
Could be.
Is it now?
Maybe a little bit.
No.
I don't know.
If you're still listening, I love you.
Yes.
All right.
We love you, Juan, because we know you're the only.
Yeah,
one
this
listening
is
right now.
100% for Juan.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.